Okay, hello everyone, and this is Kristen, and here with me today is the three developers from Jam, working directly on Jam, and I think people following Polkworld or Polkadot closely, you might have known the summit, a Web3 summit is going on, and Gavin have released some groundbreaking news about Jam, and I already received a message from the community. They are asking a lot of questions. That's why we threw up this broadcast, and we invited three of you guys to dive into more about Jam. Hope that we can give the community members a full picture of the news released from the Web3 Summit. So without further ado, I think for the first part, I would invite each of our guests to briefly introduce yourself a little bit and what the role you are playing on Jam and what's the status your development on Jam. Because even though some of you are old faces to our broadcast, but there are always newcomers. So I would like to invite you guys to introduce yourself in the first section. So first, how about Junha? You kick it off.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Junha, and I'm very new to this podcast or this space. I'm working on Rust implementation of Gem called Festrol, and I'm a solo developer in my team right now. So I've been working on this for around a year,
Mhm.
and yeah, currently I'm working on preparing for the Milestone 1 evaluation and partially working on some stuffs for Milestone 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome. And next, let's welcome Brian. Can you?
Hello, this is Brian from Akala Lemna Labs. So currently leading a small team building a Swift implementation called Boca. Um, so we are also finalizing the milestone ones and updating some off-chain implementation for milestone two. We also just started the PVM recompilers, but they are still far away from complete.
Okay. Cool. And thank you, Brian, for being here. And Brian is the first guest we invited to introduce to us Jam in detail. So very happy you can be here again. And last but not least, let's welcome Boy Mass. We've have exclusive interview with you
Yeah,
in
indeed.
previously.
Hello, everybody. I'm Boy Maas. I'm a solo implementer of the Jam protocol. I do this in the Zig language, so that's why I call it Jam Zig. And I'm also kind of the co-founder of a project on Jam, which actually has a high ambition of porting the Solana toolchain and everything, actually the Solana SVM, onto the Jam protocol, which is already kind of in proof of concept phase. So we already have that working in the proof of concept phase. So, okay.
Okay, cool, and welcome. And Polona is really a pioneer, in bringing the Polona, the Solana developers into Polkadot. It's very good idea. Okay,
Thank you very much.
so welcome you all of you guys. And the first topic I wanna ask Boy Mass, because you were in Web3 Summit, and we have read some news released on Twitter, but we really want to hear the first-hand informations from you guys. And did you watch the Gavin's speech? And is there some takeaway you want to share with us?
Definitely. It's a wonderful feeling to be here, yeah, because you actually meet all the, let's say, people that comprise, well, let's say, subset of the people that comprise the Polkadot community, and so you get a lot of interesting talks, right? So you get a good feeling of what's happening in the community, which you, let's say, it's another viewpoint on, let's say, what's happening. it's a very good feeling. It's very ambitious. It's very, let's say, it's really nice to hear all the new plans, let's say, and where everybody's working on. So yeah, it was very rewarding actually to be here. I think today's the last day, so I'm looking forward to going back. Yeah, so it's a very good vibe. It's very up.
Oh, okay. And I think did you watch the Gavins speech?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
and he
There's
introduced it. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
there's some takeaways you want to share with us, because we only read the message on Twitter, and it will always be good that as the developers you can convey the message to us in a simple words.
Yeah. So there are many things said, and let's say it's, of course, let's say Gavin is a visionary, right? So he looks kind of past, that he has a lot of experience, so he makes some choices and he introduced some new ideas for the community. Especially, of course, let's say the most impactful one is the pi times a billion, let's say, the hard cap of the token supply, which is all kinds of consequences. And I think the other message that's underlying this is also to clarify, let's say, what Jam is to the Polkadot community. Because Jam is, of course, let's say, something that ideally supports the Polkadot ecosystem. Let's say boost the ecosystem. And I think, let's say, what you also kind of feel, everybody's kind of trying to figure out, okay, let's say, what is this Jam? What is it going to do? How is it going to support, let's say, Polkadot as a whole? Let's say, how is it going to be implemented? So there are many questions, right? Let's say, being asked, and we as implementers, of course, we know everything about the technology and what's possible. Because when you build something from the ground up, you immediately have kind of familiarity with it. But I can imagine, and I think everybody can imagine, that it's also kind of, let's say, difficult to assess actually how the future is going to look like. So there's kind of everybody's trying to figure out, okay, so how is this new future with Jam powering Polkadot is going to look like?
Okay, cool. And I've noticed Gavin mentioned that the Jam will be delivered within 12 to 20 months, and I believe that Polana is highly depending on the timeline. Or so does your development plan will exactly align with the timeline of Jam?
Yeah, indeed, Christian. That's absolutely correct. So we're now working hard actually to be completely ready when the testnet launches. And now we hear like let's say the timeline presented, and actually that fits perfectly. So we're going to be ready when the testnet is live, right? And then we will just kind of, let's say, be there immediately when the network is in production.
Okay, cool. And good to hear. Next, I want to move the question to Jun Han. And the latest version of Jam released a significant technical overhaul, including a clear target to launch Milestone 1. And, but there are some listeners that they're not very clear what is Milestone 1 and what's the progress. So could you share more information about that? What exactly is the mile 1 delivery, and how's the testnet progressing, and how do you expect it to go live?
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, the gray paper has reached version 0.7.0 recently. So Gavin mentioned that the fellowship would be kind of ready to start evaluating milestone 1 from this stage. So I guess most of the teams who are actively implementing the node client is preparing for that kind of evaluation. And milestone 1 is about delivering a node client implementation which can properly import some blocks. So it is about evaluating the very basic runtime logic that with some series of given blocks, there could be some invalid blocks in it, or some correct blocks. And then for clients, they have to import the block, validate whether they are in the right format. And then if the block is correct, the client should be able to process the extrinsic data included in the block, and then run some state transition functions, which is just a runtime logics as a blockchain node, and then produce the output, proper output, which means that blockchain is a state machine. So with given state, there will be some blocks imported, and then the nodes will be running their own logic they have implemented, and then produce the posterior state. And then the nodes will be evaluated whether they are producing correct posterior state. So the evaluation would be quite straightforward, because all we have to do is prepare a lot of blocks and then see whether different implementations are producing exactly same posterior state. And it is really easy to check, because the whole posterior state can be summarized as a single Merkle root. So yeah, that is about Milestone 1. And currently there is a testing framework called Jam Conformance Fuzzer or something. That would produce a lot of blocks with some randomized data, and then see if different nodes can produce the exactly same posterior state root. And yeah, I expect that would give us some opportunity to find critical bugs and then correct those, so we can move forward to the next stage, which would be much more complicated.
Okay. So maybe I missed the messages. So when the testnet gonna be alive? So
You mean the testnet?
yeah.
I think there are some teams who are trying to interoperate with different implementer teams using their binaries. But personally, I guess the effectively working testnet would be ready after the evaluation of Milestone 2, because Milestone 1 only includes the runtime state transitioning logic of the node, and that is not sufficient for maintaining a testnet, I guess. So Milestone 2 would include evaluating whether the implementations have implemented the whole networking spec. By the way, the network spec itself is not stabilized yet. It is not included in the gray paper yet. But when it gets stabilized, and then implementers fully implement that networking protocol, then they are able to experiment some different strategies as a node operator. I think that would be a right timing for preparing the testnet and then see what happens while interoperating. But I don't know, some teams might start early doing some experiments, but personally, I think I would prepare for joining the testnet after Milestone 2.
Okay. I think Gavin released a lot of new stuff in the submit. Does that will influence the progress of your development?
I mean, I think what you mentioned is mostly about a very long-term visions. And so I think in the short term, there would be no changes in my approach or strategy. I'll just focus on correctly delivering Milestone 1. And I expect it would take at least several weeks or month to properly complete Milestone 1 ready client. So yeah, during the time, I would be mostly focusing on completing milestone 1, so there will be no like fundamental changes in my strategy. But in a very long term, like
Yeah.
over a year, over 3 years, maybe
Oh.
that could influence. But yeah, not right now.
Okay, good to hear, and thanks for sharing. And next, I will give a very hard question to Brian. It's about token. I know for developers, it's hard to evaluate the effective of the token economic, but it's really the most community members are concerned. The question is that Gavin announced a major updates on POP replacing NPOS, and validators rewards becoming fixed and capped dot supply with annual halving. As developers, and how do you view these changes from your perspective? What are the biggest impacts, and do you personally support these shifts, or are there areas you have concerns or suggestions?
Yeah, this is a big change. So probably let me step back a bit. So like the purpose of this proof of work, proof of stake, proof of personhood, those proofs are designed to secure the network. So like double spend, forking, are not possible. And then in order to, so there's a cost of everything. And so the cost of proof work is the block rewards. Similarly, for proof of stake is the staking rewards. In this case, with the new proof of personhood, it's actually make the rewards is actually quite big different. So the first thing is that proof of work is, we all know, is very costly and can be a lot of electricity and compute powers are required to for that. So like if Ethereum, for example, transition from proof of work to proof of stake, and Polkadot is originally using NPOS is also kind of proof of stake, which doesn't have the downside of proof of work. But the downside of proof of stake is and proof of work is that we need to pay people to stake. So that requires token inflations. So that can be very expensive, because like you can calculate like how much the validators are and the nominators are getting paid to secure the networks. So the goal is to reduce the cost. With proof of personhood, then the fundamental mechanisms to secure this network have been changed. Instead of relying on the economic incentives or disincentive of slashing, it changed to this different new. I don't exactly know how it's going to be implemented. Personhood, seeing one person, one vote. So if this works, then it will be much harder to cheat, and it'll be much harder to it'll be much easier to secure the network. So we don't need to pay the large amount of tokens right now for this. So this can significantly reduce the spend of the network, which is a good thing from a network point of view. But it also have a side effect that like staking or nomination and staking is kind of used, it kind of features a lot of people relying and wanting to use it so they can get more tokens, basically. With this new change, you basically kind of lost this revenue. Those the strengths of like those new ways to getting tokens. You still can get some, but not as many as before. So, but at the same time, as a token holder, if the network is spending less, your token will value more. So overall, I believe it's a positive impact, but it's definitely going to make a lot of situations very different. Like for example, some people, they just want to stake and do nothing, and now they can't. They can still using proof of personhood to participate, but the reward seems going to be much less. But that's also have a so that's the one downside. But at the same time, that means it's also benefits DeFi protocols actually, because now if the staking reward goes much less, then you probably don't want to stake. You maybe want to do something like go to lending or some other DeFi protocols. So there is actually another positive things. So yeah, there are a lot different upsides, different downsides. Like without knowing the exact details, well, even with knowing all the details, it's still not going to. People are still going to be very hard to accurately estimate the overall impacts. But like generally, I'm very positive about this.
Yeah, I think in short term, there might be some discouraging for some of the validators because their incentive will cut off dramatically. Do you think that's gonna matters a lot in the beginning?
Like it depending how the rollout strategies like.
Okay.
For example, I don't think we will like from this day just switch off completely. So it will be a more of a gradual changes. Like also like this is basically how the annual halvings do. Like we don't cut down the inflations completely from day one. We just reduce it a bit by bit every year. So this will give people time to adapt with these new changes and identify strategy. Because in the end, we still want to make sure they are secured. So we still need to make sure the validators are getting paid, at least covering the cost with some profits. And then we also need to make sure that people have incentive to nominate the validators to choose the good validators. So those conditions are still hold true. It's just that we don't want to pay them that much. So there is definitely going to be changes, but hopefully this the new economics will be designed in such a way to minimize the impacts.
Yes. And the opinions and the voices from the community are various, but it's always it's always hard to tell because in the beginning the community members are always arguing that we should cut off the inflation. Now it's going to be the deflation, and someone is still complaining, but I think it's going to be a good direction. Okay, thank you. And now let's move to a very tech topic, Ziki Jam. Um, uh, this is the words I saw on Gavin's PowerPoint, and I think it's still a hypothetical idea, and I think Ziki and is very important words in Web3 in the recent 3 or 4 years. And some people even claim that Ziki is the end of the world for rollups and for scaling. So if Ziki integrated with Jam, what would be like? So I would hear the opinions from three of you guys. So how about Jun Han? You kick it off first.
Yeah, so Jam would be. So Gavin gave an analogy of Jam comparing to the bare metal supercomputer with a very high throughput, but decentralized. And then some services built on Jam would be something like operating systems like Windows or Mac OS. So even though ZK is somehow integrated with Gem, I guess as a service developer's perspective or application developers' perspectives, who will be running their apps on top of services, which itself run on top of Gem, I think there will be no like groundbreaking changes. So the overall, I guess the overall developer experience or user experience would mostly remain the same, even the Gem upgrade its security let's say apparatus from current audit-based re-execution model to ZK. And then through rigorous evaluation and testing, if the ZK makes more sense than the current approach, I think it makes sense to upgrade it. There's no reason to avoid adopting ZK if it's superior to the existing solutions. So yeah, I guess if it is clear that ZK works very well with Gem and it is more beneficial than the current approach, I think it makes sense to get upgraded, and the overall experience will remain mostly unchanged, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And I think some of the listeners already got lost in the technical words. But don't worry, we will have the Chinese recap and you can read the articles for this part for many times to get totally sink in. So let's welcome Brian. And what's your take on this?
So I think there's one thing people need to keep in mind that one thing is Gem hosting rollup secured by Ziki, and why is Gem itself secured by Ziki? So those are two completely different things. So with the PVNs, then you can run any ZK algorithms. So if there's any new ZK rollouts architecture, so like algorithms, they can just deploy to Gem as a new servers easily. In terms of securing the Gem itself with ZK, then this requires a lot of research and new improvements to the existing algorithms. And so this is like very bleeding edge thing. And it's also depending on exactly that. Basically get decide that today all the algorithms are not good enough, not fast enough or cheap enough. But who knows, maybe someone discover a new algorithm tomorrow that's 100 times faster, and they will differently change the stories here. So this is like kind of depending what kind of new thing people can discover in the futures. But yeah, if there's some good use case, some good ways to integrating some ZKs to making Gem more secure, I see no reason why we're not going to use it.
Okay, cool. Hope that there are new things happening on this. So, Boymas, you are very experienced developers. So, what's your take on this?
Well, I think Brian and Jun already answered, let's say, most of it. Let's say the reason why I like Jam so much is also because it's kind of a practical system. So the design choices are, let's say, made so you have a working system where you can just, let's say, execute a secure compute. Like what Brian already said, like, it's at this point in time, it's way too costly, right? So how I would imagine it, how it could work is, for example, kind of a hybrid model, where traditional, let's say, auditing could occur next to kind of, say, set key auditing. Something like that. But let's say at this point in time, it's way too expensive and way too impractical to do it, I believe. So, but that could change, right? In a period of maybe, let's say, 12 months to 5 years, right? Let's say that a lot of stuff is going to be developed. So if that becomes more efficient, then it's of course a very, very interesting technology. But it also means you can actually think about redesigning the whole system, and also in the way you secure this compute, which allows for all kinds of, let's say, different design choices of the network. And so then actually you become into kind of an almost unknown territory. But it's a very interesting thought experiment, then definitely. But I would actually go for kind of a hybrid model, I would say, to keep it very practical, and for some applications that really require this zero knowledge security, that they can use that as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. And I I believe that there are a lot of listeners you don't follow for this part because it's very technical. And don't worry, we will have the Chinese version recap, and you can follow our PokeWord WeChat channel and read the article to understand this part. So let's move on to our next topic, which is the Jam governance. And although Gavin will remain as the chief editor of the grey paper, and he also announced plans to establish the grey paper additional board. This board will consist of technical capable contributors who are deeply involved in GEM's development and will collectively decide on future protocol updates, priorities, and decisions. So this topic, we're going to talk about, as developers, do you think it's a good idea for protocol to be governed by a committee, and could it drift away from the original version? And if it does, how should that be? Should that be handled? Yeah, and for this topic, how about we start from Boy Mass?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I believe it's a good thing, right? To have a committee managing, or let's say managing the new updates of the grey paper, because it's a highly technical and a highly let's say it's a highly specific subject field, right? Which requires like a lot of attention and also like a lot of exposure to the subject matter to make kind of well-informed decisions. And so from that point of view, I think it's very good to have kind of a committee, which is then be led by the original creator, Gavin Wood, let's say, of the grey paper. So yeah. So I'm actually all for. Yeah.
Okay. So for developers, you think it's good to be the protocol could be decided by a group of people.
Definitely.
Okay. Brian, what's your take on this?
So, like in some way, everything are governed by a committee. It's just a matter of size of the committee, who are the people in the committee. So it is good to have this defined, have the governance process defined rather than having just something works like that. So at least it's written down on paper, so everyone know this is a process, and this is the only way to make the process transparent and make a process can be make it possible to improve the process. Because if you have nothing written down, there is nothing to be improved. So in that way, this is already much better than not having this committee. And in a, like the grey paper is also a very, very technical thing. I believe most of the people working on Gen implementation have read it multiple times on multiple versions of it. And I don't think anyone other than Gav understand 100% of it. Like it's really, really complicated thing. Like even Gav, he probably don't understand 100% of it. Like there are people like making fixing typos, fixing small issues, making adjustment improvements. So this is definitely not something. It's not an easy task. So I personally will only accept modifications from people that knowing having years of experience on this areas, because otherwise there is very unlikely he understand the full consequences of the changes. Because like, if this is going to be secure the future of Web3 or future of the internet, then we have a large amount of assets on stake. So we really want to ensure is everything's super fully considered. So only the main thing I think is just keep it very transparent and allow anyone to order the process, allow anyone to participate in the process, providing you have proof that you understand what you're suggesting. because like anyone can make suggestions, but there will be too much noise. So there needs to be a way to making sure when you're making a suggestion, you also need to be proof that you understand fully what you're suggesting. Otherwise, things can go bad.
Yes, so maybe the board must have some rules, like who can join and how these board members could be organized, because it's hard. People's have they all have their own opinions. It's very easy to have different opinions. I think there's a high possibility that the ideas might be drifted away from the original version.
Yeah, that's why we have smart contracts. Then we have process. We have everything written down. And if the version is written down, and if it's something can be enforced by anyone, if everything is fully transparent, public, then that makes it harder to drift away. Like if everything is in a small closed room black box thing, then like people don't even know where you are. Then it's very likely it's not on the same place. So transparency and also like the process, especially if it can be enforced by smart contracts, then that is something have a chance to making sure it's something can survive for a long term.
Okay, cool. If I didn't get it wrong, I think Bitcoin have the similar abroad broad for the development of Bitcoin.
Yeah, they have a group of core developers, but they basically the full decision are basically decided by forks. So which fork have the most hash rate ones, basically.
Okay, cool. So I thank you. And so last but not least, Jun Han, do you have some ideas to add for this topic?
Yeah, I think having the editorial board is very natural and a great approach. So when we think about the whole Jam, the gray paper spec and the Jam project, the Jam prize, it is a very unique approach that before delivering a working software by a core developer team, the formal specification, the paper that describes how the system should work, was delivered first, which is comprised of a lot of equations that explains how the inputs and outputs should look like in this system. And then after establishing the specification, the implementation is delivered. So I think it is very natural. So the purpose of that approach was to achieve a high level of resilience and decentralization of talents and the team. So in the long term, we can bring a much higher level of resilience to the system. So I think because of that, the paper has been revised multiple times since its initial launch, and it is not finalized yet. And even from now on, or maybe even it reaches the version 1.0, I think as many implementary teams try experimenting and running the testnet, they will figure out which part would be beneficial to be revised from the gray paper, which would help us to run the same logic with a very higher efficiency. And those updates, if they make sense, would be great to be included in the next version of gray paper. So by this nature of the whole Gem project, I guess the gray paper would be evolving at least for several months, even after the mainnet launch. I guess maybe there might be some hard forks after the launch. And regarding that, I guess having the board members who are collectively working on the development of gray paper, the protocol spec itself, is very useful. Otherwise, only the author would be taking care of the spec. So, as Brian mentioned, being transparent about which kind of decisions were made by the board is very important. But also, I think it is very important to attract more people's attention and make more people who are willing to utilize the Jam protocol to also have interest in the gray paper itself. And rather than just relying on and trust the author's opinions, I think if those teams who utilize the spec actually try to proofread the spec and then validate by themselves, not just accepting what the author said. And then through those processes, I guess we can find out some major potential points of improvement. So I think this is a very good start. We should see how it works out. But considering the nature of the whole Jam project, I guess this is a very natural and good approach to make the spec itself to get upgraded.
Okay, yes, and it's a very good start. And if it is transparent, that will be very good. So thank you for your sharing. And I think we've touched on all the topics we prepared. But to wrap up our conversation, maybe any of you guys have something to add? Anything you want to say about Jam, about Web3 Summit? And you can share your opinions, anything you didn't touch on previously in our conversation. And so, Brian, do you have something to add in the end?
Not really. So yeah, so Jam is again, it is the fundamental infrastructures, but it's not everything. The important thing is the servers built on top of the Jam. Like users, they don't use Jam directly. They're using the servers built on top of Jam. So launching the Jam is only in the step one towards the actual goals they want to achieve. They're launching the servers, the dApps, the applications is the things that actually matters. Jam just makes them easier and possible in some ways. So there's still a lot more things to do. We shouldn't just limiting our eyes onto the Jam core protocols, but also we should also definitely taking a look at all the protocols and applications built on top of Jams.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And Boy Mass, do you want to add something about the Polana and anything else about Jam?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, Jam, right? Because I think when I was in Lisbon, right, and let's say Gavin was giving a kind of a speech about Jam, that what I think is that, let's say, we underestimate a little bit what this platform can actually bring to the blockchain community. So the bandwidth that Jam provides is actually not seen in blockchain before. Let's say so. We're really a kind of part of let's say blockchain history. That's how I feel it. Also with the kind of applications this will enable. It's really something unique. So having said that, then let's say everybody that's listening that's also at the Web3 or wants to meet the Polana team, then please come. Let's say we would love to share our insights also on Jam and how that will work with Polkadot. And also, that was it actually. One last message is like that. Well, Polana project goes very fast. So we got now a proof of concept running on Jam already. And so we actually ported the whole Solana SVM to the PVM. So actually now you can actually take bytecode right from Solana, any contract, put it on Jam and executed, also with cross-program invocations. So everything is already operational, which is very cool, and that's very fun to work on. And also shows kind of the power of let's say these Jam services. So if anybody's at Web3 and wants to hear about that, then also let's say just send me a message on the Twitter or Telegram, and then we can meet up and we can have a conversation about it. So
Yeah.
and thank you, Kristen, for the wonderful interview as well. So that was that was it.
Yeah, thank you. Last but not least, Johan, do you have anything else to add in the end?
Yeah, I just hope more people get interested in Jam, Polkadot, or the gray paper. I hope we can just get connected and share some more ideas. So for now, the Jam clients are still under development, so we cannot see a very like solid examples. Also, there were some demonstrations by Gavin's team, but by so far, there's no very much rich examples that can actually convict people that what can be done with this. But whoever's interested in the Web3 philosophy itself and actually pushing boundaries of this space, I think digging into the Jam would give us a very good understanding. And then I just hope to get connected with more people and discuss, or just read the paper together, whatever would be very fun. I've been working on this project solo by myself, so I really hope to meet more people and share some ideas and move forward to and get some ideas for building something after delivering the node.
Okay. Thanks for sharing, and thank you all of our guests for sharing their insights about Jam, and thank you for every listeners to be here today. And I suggest everyone to follow the guests of today, and you can find their Twitters on our Pokeworld announcement, and you can keep updated on the Jam development. No matter you are a normal user or you are a developer, they are all worth you to follow. So, and thanks everyone, and hope we can see you next time. And that's all for today.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Mhm.